Hey guys, today's video is a bit different. Hope you like this format. I'm going to share my thoughts on the 5 Huda Beauty Obsessions Precious Stones eyeshadow palettes, show you swatches, one look and rank them based on how much I have used each one of them. So let's get started. My first favorite and most used is definitely the Ruby Obsessions palette. Even though purple is my favorite color, if I have to choose between the Ruby Obsessions and Amethyst Obsessions, I will choose the Ruby Obsessions. Love the rich reddish berry tones on my eyes, and I always love the looks which I have created with this palette. Here is one such look which I create a lot with this palette. The mattes in this palette work really well together, and that's what I'm working on now, blending all the mattes as per my liking. The mattes in this palette are really nicely pigmented and they work together very well, especially this deep reddish berry color is beautiful in this palette. Don't really have a lot of complaints from this palette. All the colors work really well together. Here I am building up the intensity of the red shade, and I like to take it out into my crease and blow it outside of my crease a little bit. It gives a nice smoky effect. And this shimmer, this mauvey, berry, ruby, purpley, reddish shimmer, this is one of my favorite colors in this palette, and it's a big reason that this palette is #1 because I love this color. And I think it looks very well with my skin tone as well. And this color is also amazing. It has a very nice duochrome shift. Using this satiny, shimmery kind of a red color for my lower lash line. And using that duochrome shade again. And that's it. That's the first look. I love this look. I always wear this look if I'm using this palette. Next we have the Amethyst Obsessions palette. What more can I say? I love purples, and in this palette you have different tones of purples which are just so beautiful. There are 3 duochrome type shadows which can elevate any look. Here is a look which I created with this palette, and I also really like doing a all matte look which looks really pretty. In this Amethyst Obsession palette as well, the mattes work really well together. They are very nicely pigmented as the Ruby Obsessions. They blend well as well. The quality of the mattes is very good, and the shimmers are also excellent. All of the shimmers perform well. The duochrome shimmers are just beautiful. Just that I wear the reddish tones more than the purpley tones. So that's why this is #2. Otherwise, I think both the Ruby Obsessions and the Amethyst Obsessions, they have very similar quality. Here I am deepening the outer V with the deep purple shade. This shimmer also is very similar to the red in the Ruby Obsessions palette. A little bit more firmly pressed, so I think fingers work the best. This duochrome color. It's just so pretty. All the duochrome in this palette, they are just to die for. I love them. Using a brush just to smoothen out everything a little bit, make it more seamless and blended. And I'm using this shimmery purple shade for my lower lash line. It's more of a violet purple. And that's my purple eye look. I love wearing purple on my eyes, just that I don't get an opportunity to wear purple very often, but I just love wearing purple eye looks. So yeah, that's the Amethyst Obsession. Next I have to place, of course, the Topaz Obsession palette, which is the warm toned, more neutral palette. Whenever I feel like doing a neutral warm look, I usually go for this palette. Very easy to create simple everyday neutral warm looks, or you can glam up the look with this beautiful shimmers in this palette. This is a palette which I reach out for a lot too. In this palette also, all the mattes work really well, especially the lighter mattes, the oranges and the yellows. They work really well together, they blend nicely. Just that this deeper matte brown color, you have to build up a little bit on my skin tone. I do have to build it up quite a lot, and it is a little bit difficult to blend, so you have to work at it a bit. So here I'm taking all the previous matte shades which I had used before and blending them into the crease with the brown. This shimmer is just beautiful, gorgeous shimmer. It's a coppery brown shade, and here I'm using that second shade in the palette, and it's more of a duochrome gold. That is also really, really pretty. That I have used in my inner corners. As you can see, I'm using my fingers most of the time with the shimmers because that's how they work the best. Just to blend out the shimmers evenly, I'm using the brushes. Deepening up the outer V with the brown, and I wanted to get more of a wing with the brown, so that's what I'm working on right now, creating a little wing and then smoking it out. So that's my finished look, a very, very warm look. Honestly, I don't really wear such a warm look very often as well, but it's fun to do this look sometimes. Now the last two palettes are very difficult to choose from. I don't use these palettes that much in day-to-day life, although I really love the colors. But since I love blue more on my eyes, I will choose the Sapphire Obsessions palette first. But this is also the last one that I bought from this series. I really love the different vibrant tones of blue in this palette. Since all the other looks have some sort of a shimmer element to it, for this video I have done a all matte blue gradient look. In this palette, I would say I'm not super impressed with the mattes. They are a little bit difficult to build up and blend, and you have to work at them for quite some time so that they don't look patchy. They have a tendency to look patchy. So that's what I'm working on right now. Since this is a matte eye look, I did have to work quite a bit on the matte shades. So first building up the deep blue shade, then building up the lighter blue, and then the lightest one at the end. This blue color especially, it's very difficult to work with. It is not very heavily pigmented, so you have to build up the color. So I really wish the mattes were a little bit better in this palette. And as you can see, I'm using my fingers with the mattes just to build up on intensity. This blue, I would say, is one of the better blues of the palette. The pigmentation is smooth, it doesn't get very patchy, and I think on lighter skin tone this blue will work more better. Again, using my fingers for that blue and blending it, both the blues out with the brush. Then I'm going into this neon color. This neon is also surprisingly quite nicely pigmented and it showed up pretty well on my skin tone. And I'm using the deep shimmery blue in the palette for my lower lash line. And that's it. That's a super fun look I created with this palette. Last and my least used palette is the green one, which is called the Emerald Obsessions palette. It's last because I don't really use this palette that much and I don't use all the shades in this palette. I really love the olive green shade in this palette and that's what I use the most, and I realized I just don't use these kind of greens for my looks. For this video I have done a very clean green eyeshadow look. I haven't done a very smoky look. And whenever I wear green eyeshadow looks, I mainly concentrate the colors on my eyelids. So that's what I've done here as well. It's a very clean eyeshadow look. For this palette, I would say none of the mattes work well with my skin tone. I have to build up quite a lot. The pigmentation is not absolutely the best. So as you can see, I'm trying to build up the green shade a lot. I didn't have an eyeshadow base on today. So with the eyeshadow base, the shade performs better, but yeah, you do have to build it up. Same goes for this olive gray sort of a color. This also is quite difficult to blend and it doesn't show up that well on my skin tone. So I would say if you're close to my skin tone, don't really expect too much from the mattes, and I wouldn't really recommend this palette either. As I already mentioned, I just love this olive green from this palette. It's really beautiful and most of the time I just wear the olive green. Shimmery metallic green shade is also really pretty. I have used just a little bit of it today, but on its own on the eye also it looks really nice. Love this glittery shimmery topper kind of a shade which I've used. It gives a nice pop on the eyes. And this is where I am cleaning the edges. I don't want too much of a blowout look when I use green. I like the look to be very clean. So I usually clean up the area and then define or enhance any particular area which I want to. And for the lower lash line, again I'm using this deep green shade. This matte green is really nice on its own on the lid, by the way. I have tried that look just on its own, plain one color shadow. It looks really nice. And yeah, that's it. That's my finished green eye look. I will try to do more looks with this palette if you guys are interested. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Those are the 5 looks I created with the 5 Huda Beauty Obsessions palette. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.